Can you please take your seats? Please fill your glasses, have a few more bites and a plate, and have your seats, please.
Welcome, everybody. No? Yes, it is working. Welcome, all of the MCSA Joburg Club, and we're about to introduce somebody who I think I met on a weeding meet, and Stephan came along to probably the worst tributary that we have, and in fact he's come back again to more weeding meets, and in between I could see he just has this amazing love for nature, which is interesting in comparison to what he has done throughout his life. So he's actually a software developer and working for FNB in the banking sector, but definitely does spend his weekend out on the mountain. So this is where his passion is, and just watching him with iNaturalist, bringing that combination between IT and all those the technology, and taking it into nature and seeing how those link, and they link beautifully in the citizen science. So this is really what today is about. And Stephan, this is over to you. Welcome, Stephan Snyman.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and for those of you who are joining us online, really appreciate it. This evening I'm going to be giving you guys an introduction to iNaturalist, what it is, how it works, and what you can do with it, and if it's for you. And yeah, let's get started. So iNat calls itself a citizen science project and a social network for scientists and nature enthusiasts. It lets you record observations of any living thing that you can find. So plants, animals, fish, anything that you can take a photo of that is living. So unfortunately, it's not really for geologists, but for everyone else. And then there's a whole bunch of things that you can do with it, but the range is from anything that's common to even super rare species that you've never seen before. All the observations help to advance biodiversity science throughout the world. And there's a bunch of different projects like this that already exist, but iNaturalist is currently the largest online project of this sort, and the one that most people use, and it's pretty advanced at the moment. So you might be thinking you're not a biologist or an ornithologist or something, and it's not really for you. You don't even know anything about plants. And I mean, I myself haven't really done even biology past like grade 7 level. But what's great about it is that as much as it is for people with PhDs and doing postdoc research on biodiversity and plants and animals, it's just as useful for people who don't know anything about plants or animals and are interested in learning what they see out in nature. So I just made a short list here of things that that you could do, and especially it's used for identifying species that you found. So if you see a tree or a plant or something and you wonder what it is, and you don't have a reference book or some expert with you to tell you, all you need to do is take a photo of it, and then you can upload it there, and then everyone that uses this has access to your observation, and then you can have experts who know exactly what to look for go and tell you this is exactly what you found. And it doesn't matter if other people have also found similar things there in the same area. It also helps for gathering data on that. Another reason people like using it is to help others identify what they found. It's sort of like, that's sort of the social network aspect of it, is you can go onto other people's observations and see what they've found and discuss with others. Oh, I think it could be this species, maybe it's a subspecies. Did you see that like split leaf, or it has these kind of antlers? And so people will discuss and eventually come to a consensus about what they've actually identified. And then all of that data is collected not just on we found this species, but also on the location of where it was found, what time of year, all that kind of information. And then that data gets collected and it's used by universities, by research organizations, all kinds of organizations around the world take this information and then use it to advance research. So even you just uploading a photo of a bird or something you found helps research throughout the world. And then the really fun and exciting part is you might even be the first person to discover a species in the world through this, and it's happened a bunch of times. People have also discovered species that were thought to be extinct, and they found live specimens of it, and now there's evidence that this thing is still alive. And then range extensions, that's when typically a species is like known to only occur in a certain area, and then sometimes people will find things in in a new area that no one thought it would be in, and you could be the person to discover that. So yeah. Here is an example from, when was this? July this year. I've put the link here, but and the species name is Eurytus orivili. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's there somewhere in the Eastern Cape. This beetle hasn't been seen for decades, maybe even 100 years. And this guy was the first person to take a photo of this beetle. So this is the very first observation of this thing on iNaturalist, and pretty much anywhere in the world for decades, and this guy found it. He was just on a hike somewhere, took a photo and was like, oh, what's this beetle? And then everyone got excited about it. So it could be you, even though you're not an expert, you out there in the mountains seeing things, and if you take a photo, you never know what you might find. And it would be pretty cool to discover a new species, could be named after you. So yeah. All right, and then I mentioned this briefly before, how iNat is used to help other projects. So one of the big things is to keep track of endangered species. So we had that aloe pegler ray count recently. Then Magaliesberg, we went and did a whole bunch of observations and recorded how many we could find in a certain area. So it sort of keeps track of the population count of this specific species. But even if you don't go out for a specific project like that for that purpose, just you recording that one thing helps add to the data that, hey, we found this species, it's still alive, still in this area. And then another thing that is used in research is to see the trends in the spread or even the reduction in invasive species. So that's another thing that iNat keeps track of, is which species are invasive to certain areas or not. Yeah, I've seen on their website, they also said at least 4,000 scientific papers have been published using data from the iNat database. Anyone has access to it. It's publicly accessible data, so you can go and download the whole database yourself if you want to do your own research. Yeah, organizations like GBIF, Crew, even Sandparks, there's dozens of them throughout the world, all make use of iNat in one way or another. And what's great about it is it's also like a cost-cutting thing, in that, you know, like our government doesn't always have funds for advanced technology and that kind of stuff. So to have something that's freely available that anyone can use to contribute to data sets helps the people that work there do their jobs in an easier and more efficient manner. And then even like where you wouldn't expect it, other projects like Wikipedia, I'll talk a bit more about that in another slide, but you uploading these photos of things you found now makes it accessible to other projects where people now have access to photos of species which may not have been available before. Now everyone can see what this thing looks like because you went on a hike and took a photo. All right, and then another thing to take note of is that iNaturalist as a platform, it's a website, but they also have they have two apps. They have the iNaturalist app, which pretty much does everything that the website does, but they have another app which they call Seek, or sometimes they're just called Seek by iNaturalist. And these two apps have slightly different use cases. So Seek is a more casual app, and the very nice feature about that is that it has the built-in species identification thing. So you can open the app and just point it at something and it will tell you what it is if it knows what it is. That's great for when you're casually out and about and you just want to find out what something is, and if you couldn't even be bothered to take a photo, you just want to see, oh, what is this thing, point your camera at it, and then it'll tell you. And if it's not sure about the exact species, it might just say, oh, it's in this genus or in this family, and that'll help you narrow it down. But I'll talk in a slide a bit later on about how it knows that and how to improve that. Then the iNaturalist app is, that's more for uploading your observations. So that one won't tell you what a species is, but you can take your photo, upload it, and then people will go and look at it and identify it a bit further down the line. So you'll find out eventually. But the cool thing about the Seek one is that it's more immediate. So I'll have a demonstration of that at the end of the talk. All right, and now to how to actually use the iNat app. You can, in the actual application, take photos of things, but I've generally noticed with a lot of apps that let you take photos, for whatever reason, it's not as great as your phone's normal camera app. So I like to just take photos with a normal camera app. But then you can upload them through the iNat application. So here's it's literally 5 steps. So you open the app, and then there's like a little green plus button there that you click on, and then this menu shows up. So there's what I mentioned, the take a photo one, which I don't recommend. You can also record sound, so like bird calls, that kind of thing, or upload one that you pre-recorded, and then choose image. That'll go into like your phone's gallery or whatever, and you choose the photo that you took earlier. You can also upload multiple photos for one observation. So that's usually good for things like trees, where you'll have like a far away photo, and then you'll have another one close up of the leaves, another one close up of the bark. Helps people identify things. And it's usually better to have a few different photos of different angles or different features to help people identify what it is. But usually even one photo, some people are really sharp-eyed and can figure out what it is. So yeah, just note you can upload one or more photos. So you'll see in this example, I uploaded 2 photos for this observation. Then there's a section to put notes where you can say anything you thought relevant. It automatically loads like the date and the GPS location from the photo's metadata. You can say if you want the location visible to everyone or not, or if you want it obscured. And the reason for that is usually for endangered species. You don't want people going there and then stealing them, so it gives you an option to obscure the GPS location and only give the actual location to certain people. So it will then like randomize the location in like a 50-kilometer radius for anyone who doesn't have access. And then this is also very important, is captive or cultivated. So the main focus for iNat is not captive plants or animals, whatever. So don't go to the zoo and take a photo of this thing, or even like a botanical garden, even like where it's very curated, that's not really the point of it. They're trying to figure out what's out there in the wild. So like, again, also not like your cat or like, that's, yeah. Yeah, people do that, but that's again not really the point of the project. So And that's sort of why they also have that, is sometimes for whatever reason you do want to do it, and if you tick that, it marks, you'll notice a lot of the observations are marked as research grade, which sounds very like, yeah, but it just means that it's available for doing research on. So again, your pot plant or like the bush in your office park isn't really going to mean anything about that specific species because people sort of interfered with where it naturally occurs. So yeah, if you're now trying to identify your cat using this thing, it probably won't do it. I did try it on our cat and it said it was some sort of carnivore, and that's all. I didn't really know because they don't really train, there's not actually that much data on a normal house cat, but try it, but yeah, that's not what it's really for. And then this project thing is more like focused projects, which we'll discuss at the end. But yeah, and the GPS is also, the location is very important. So if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. You can still, after the fact, go. It has like a little Google Maps thing, and you can remember where you were and like roughly draw out the area where you were when you took it. But I mean, I'm sure 99% of people have the GPS tag on for photos on their phone, but the location is very important for understanding which species it is and for identifying it, because things only occur in certain locations. Right, then once you've filled out all of this stuff, this is also a very important field. So this is where you don't have to fill this out, but if you think you know what it is, you click here and you say, I think it is a pom-pom, or if you're doing weeds, for example, or it doesn't even have to be to the species level. So often what I would do is I just say, oh, it's a butterfly, or it's a dragonfly, or even just it's a plant, or it's an insect. You can put that in and it narrows it down to that section, and then and then other people will then, you know, because some people like to only look at insects, some people only look at fish, for example. So the more you can narrow it down helps other people to narrow it down even further. And then in this example, I put down this genus, the sheep daisies, or Phymospermum is what it's called, and then it also, using AI, thinks it's most likely this gold sheep daisy, but I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to say it's that. But later on, someone else did confirm that it was there. And then you'll see here is this button saying include suggestions not seen nearby, because it uses two things to identify species. So it uses a computer vision model to look at what it actually looks like, to see this species looks similar to that, and then again, very importantly, the GPS location. So it's not going to look at species in like South America that vaguely look similar. It's going to exclude those automatically because it makes sense that they wouldn't really occur in this location. So you don't really have to do that. And again, I would suggest, if you're not an expert, rather just identify it to the level that you're comfortable with, and then some expert will come and narrow it down. Then once I've selected this, you'll see it was like this. Now I've selected what I think it is. You click the green button and it will now upload it to the iNat website. So A lot of explanation, but it's just 5 simple steps, and now the thing's there. This is now doing the exact same thing using the iNat website, so on your computer or laptop or whatever. You log into the website, and in the top right-hand corner, there'll be a green upload button. Then the screen will look like this. You click choose files, and then the screen will look like this. So this was some photo of a butterfly I took back in 2020. I uploaded 5 photos, and then I just set it like this to demonstrate. You'll see this one says 1 out of 3, and then there's also 2 separate things here. So it was thinking maybe I wanted to upload, it was originally 5 separate observations, but you can combine them by clicking and dragging the photos into the green boxes, or you can click that combine button and it merges them all into one. And then again, same, here's where you would put in the species or genus or whatever that you think it might be. The date and location will be filled in automatically from the file's metadata. If it's not there, you can put it in yourself. Same for notes, location, whether it's captive, and other extra info if you feel the need. And then, I know it's kind of far from here, but another thing that's important, and often with insects, is you'll find like a butterfly or a beetle or something on a flower, and iNat is pretty good at figuring out, do you mean the observation is the insect or the flower? But just to make everyone's lives easier when that happens, that's what I'll often use the notes for, and just say this observation is about the butterfly or it's about the plant. Just makes it clearer for everyone. So yeah, this is now what that screen looks like when I click the combine button. So now it's added all 5 of those photos into this one observation, and I've just said, I think it's butterfly. It's in the butterflies family or super family. And then I think I cropped it out, but then there's like an upload button here somewhere. And then this is what the observation looks like on the iNat website once it's done and uploaded. So you'll have all the photos over here. Then there's the map over there of where in the world it's located. You can zoom in and out, and you'll see all those dots there. Those represent other observations of the same thing around it. So because this is quite a large, like high up on the taxon rank, that's any butterfly that was observed in that area. So there's a lot of dots, and you'll find as it gets narrowed down, the dots start disappearing because it gets more and more specific. And then mentioned before, you'll see this tag, it says needs ID. So you need at least 2 different people for something to be considered identified. So even if you are like the world expert on something and you upload this thing, it's not going to count as, or it's not going to get to research grade unless one other person confirms that they also think it is what you think it is. So if that does happen, then this needs ID will change to the research grade status. Then there's a few extra things, like you can say if this thing you're observing is alive or dead, what stage of life is it in, like is it male, female, Evidence of presence is stuff like if it's the feces of the animal, or if you find fur, or you see a mole tunneling, something like that. That's what that's used for. And then this is the main area of the observation. So the first one is the ID that I selected. So I chose butterflies, and it chose butterflies. Then you can add a comment here, or other people can add comments, or they can then click on suggest a ID, and then they can either agree with your ID, or they can narrow it down further and further until it gets to species or subspecies level. And then some nice tools that you'll find is here is this compare button. So most often things will get down to like a genus level, and then people will start talking about which species in the genus it is. And even as someone who's not an expert, you can then go and click on that compare button, and a window will open up, and it will show all the species in that genus and show photos of them, and then you can compare the photos of this observation with all the ones in there, and you can say, oh, I can see this obviously looks like it's that species, is probably that one. So it helps you even on your own to narrow this thing down. And then what else? If you made a mistake anywhere, you can click on that edit button and change anything that you did in error. But most of the stuff is automatic anyway. Yeah, I think we can move on. Yeah, so now to the AI portion of iNaturalist. So I mentioned this a bit briefly before. Because this is such a large and popular project, it was originally designed, as I mentioned, just for people to get together and help each other figure out what the species are. But then a bunch of researchers realized you have this massive data set. Why don't we use that to train computers to automatically identify these things? And that's now become part of this project. So at the moment, they are adding about 1,000 new species every month to the computer vision model. But to be added to that set, a species needs at least 50 different research grade observations. So that's why it's important for everyone to get out there and just do lots and lots of observations, because that gives iNat a lot more data to work with. And then the more photos they have of a specific species, the easier the AI can train on what this thing looks like, and then be able to automatically identify it from photos. Yeah, and then again, as I mentioned, it uses a combination of the location and the computer vision model to figure out which species it is. Yeah, so please get out there and take as many photos as possible. All right. And then on this one, couldn't find a good example of how the AI found it, but if on the suggest one, if you just click in this box, it will automatically bring up suggestions that it thinks that it could possibly be. And as you can see there, it says visually similar, which is the computer vision model, and expected nearby, which is the using the GPS. So I guess because too far away from the butterfly, it was a bit more tricky for it. And maybe the one that I actually took a photo of didn't have that many observations, so that's why it wasn't able to narrow it down. This top selection, it will usually say, oh yeah, here you can say, it says, we're pretty sure it's in this superfamily. Normally, it goes right down to the genus level and says, even if it's 99% sure what species it is, it'll say, we're pretty sure it's this genus, and then give you one or two species that it could possibly be. And then if you then click on that, there will be a little, I didn't include it, but there'll be a little symbol on your suggestion that said your suggestion was assisted by the AI model. But yeah, and then another very important thing, on your observation, you'll see this section, top identifiers of whatever level it's currently at. So this is a great way, if no one is figuring out what it is, you can go and see who that person is, and then just in the comments, you ping them and say, hey, do you think, what is this? Because they are, yeah, they're the person who knows the most or has done the most IDs of this species or genus. So that's the best person to contact globally about butterflies on iNat. And if they're not answering you, then try number 2. And then this one I'll speak very briefly on. I'm sure most of you won't care, but I do care about this. I'm also very involved on the Wikipedia project, and Wikipedia only uses images of a certain group of licenses. So you can't just copy any image and use it on Wikipedia. And by default, iNaturalist uses the CC by NC license. So that means Creative Commons and non-commercial, which is this one. One of these two is the default that it uses. So I would suggest, please go to the settings, content display licensing, and just choose one that has these tags. So if it has the green and the blue, that means more projects are legally allowed to use that image. It just is better for everyone else that's going to be making use of the photos. You can even choose this no license, because by default, everything you create is under copyright, and then this you say only iNat can use it according to their terms of use. If for whatever reason you're super selfish about your photos. But yeah, ideally choose one with those green and blue icons, because then everyone can use it. All right, then some statistics. So they have a stats page. Currently, there's about 400,000 active users throughout the world. And there's over 130 million research grade observations. And 3/4 of them are identified to species level. So that's pretty impressive. So yeah, it's very likely that if you upload something on there, it's going to get identified. Obviously, the better your photo is, the easier it becomes. So it really is great for even if you're just using it casually to find out what something is, the chances are very likely. All right, so this is normally the last slide of a talk, but it's my second last slide. I'm quickly going to skip ahead. When we're done with the questions, I have here, you can scan these codes or just do it yourself. You can download the iNat app or the Seek app for Android or iOS. We brought some plants here, so you're going to need the Seek one if you just want to see what it is. So please don't upload these now to iNat because they're just house plants. But to demonstrate how the AI works, we'd suggest you download the app, come here and point your camera at the plants. If it doesn't immediately pick it up, just move the camera around until it gets a clearer picture of it. I did try all of them at home and it did find all of them. And then just so that you can get a practical idea of how it works. And then if you don't have internet, MCSA has been very kindly providing Wi-Fi if you want to download the app. But yeah, that is the end of my presentation. Any questions? Sorry, excuse me? To download or upload? You mean?
Upload.
Yeah.
I was saying, what size image can you download? If you do like an 850 Nikon, it's
Yes.
like 50 megapixels, it might be a bit large.
That is a good question. Thank you for asking. So I'm not sure of the exact maximum image size that they allow, but I do know they do automatically compress some of the images and stuff that you do upload. So don't use it as your personal cloud backup for photos because they're going to be shrinking them. But most of the photos I've uploaded on my phone, what size? Even a 4K photo, I think it uploads it and you can zoom in all the way. It's just going to compress it a bit more. So some of the quality will go down a bit, but so it won't be the exact same as the original that you had on your phone, but it's still good enough to zoom in all the way and see all the details.
So we're the sort of casual observers of these things, and we're uploading stuff and we want people to then confirm. What's the incentive, or how do the people, the professionals, are they just sitting there when they're bored, opening up iNat and scrolling through and helping the community by identifying? Or is that how the process works?
So twofold, yes. There are people, whether they have PhDs or they're just very knowledgeable enthusiasts who do just go and sit and ID these things in their free time. But there are also people, it's literally their job that they don't work for iNat, but they work for some research institution, and then they will go and see what's, let's say they are ornithologists and they go look at all the bird uploads in their area, because it also allows you to, narrow new observations to a geographic area. So they could be interested in one area and they might just be seeing what people are uploading and see if they find something interesting. And while they're there, they help you ID the things. But don't quote me on it, but I assume at least 80% of the people on there who are super active are going to be doing it for the fun of it anyway, purely out of the enjoyment, yeah. Yeah, so again, I have noticed some of the stuff I upload immediately gets like so many like comments and IDs and stuff. Others gets like nothing. And it could just be because the thing you uploaded, the people who saw it either don't have an interest or they don't know anything about it. Or sometimes just, someone missed it because there's, millions of things going up on there, which is why I suggested you use that top observers thing and just tag one of those people and say, hey, I found this thing, what do you think it is? And that's usually enough to just spur some discussion on the thing and get it going. Yes, so the question was, taxonomy often changes. Sometimes species are moved into a whole brand new genus even. And I don't know how it gets reported, but I do know it happens. I've often seen, especially if you go to an old taxon, it will say, on that page, it will say taxon update, and it will say this thing was renamed to that, and it was moved to this other genus or whatever, and give you the link. So there are people there who go and update everything and keep it all up to date and inform everyone when that does happen.
Do you know if the taxonomy does change, for instance, to a completely different genus? Will it then result in two different observations of the old genus and the new genus, or will it be grouped into one?
They all move to the new one, from what I've seen, yeah. Yeah.
So if you took a photo like 5 years ago of a weird and wonderful creature, can you still upload?
Yeah, so I know a guy, he took a bunch of photos back in the 80s on like an analog camera, and he's now digitized all of those and is uploading them one by one. And so that would be an example. Now, obviously, there's no GPS thing and whatnot, but he can go and say, I think he just took like very meticulous notes. So he manually goes and puts in the date and the rough location of all of those things. And I mean, the one I showed you earlier of the butterfly, that was like from 2020, before I even knew what iNaturalist was. I just went, scrolled back, took the photo, uploaded it, and then because it was in the photos metadata, I knew that that was from 2020. So it will say the observation happened in 2020, but you uploaded it today. So it keeps track of those as two separate timestamps, yeah. Question up there.
I was just wondering about with the refinement of the identification. So if you say it's just a butterfly,
yeah,
and then there are subsequent comments, and that hones down on a particular identification.
Yes.
And that's all in the comments. So how does it? I don't know. How does it register this refinement?
Yes. I'll log on just now when I just remember now there was another thing Tam wanted me to show you guys, which is how the projects work. So I'll log on and then maybe I'll just show you guys a few of the other features. But I think I had some of it here. No. But essentially, as I mentioned, it's going to want, as it says, the ID needs at least 2 identifications. So you will see here, let's say there's a disagreement about which species it is. species A and species B, and 3 people say it's A and 4 people say it's B, it's going to then automatically mark it as the finest level that everyone agrees on, and then, but it will mark it as saying this observation is, can't remember the word they use, but like it's under debate essentially. But yeah, it automatically chooses the one that everyone agrees on. And if there is no agreement, if there's at least 2, then it chooses that one. Yeah.
Sometimes they also, if there's someone who's a bit of a renegade, who's like given a strange ID to it, then you can actually speak to that person, ask them to remove their weird ID.
Yes.
Sometimes that does happen.
Yeah, people can withdraw, whether it was they made it by accident or if they were eventually convinced otherwise, you can withdraw a suggestion that you thought it was. And then I think also a certain, like let's say 100 people say it's this thing and one person says it's not. I think there is some number where it just overrides the one minority opinion. Yeah.
You can do it this way around. So Jacques, do you want to work with Stephan? I mean, that might be an idea.
Are there any other questions before we show the project? No other questions? All right, cool. Give me a sec.
Okay, I can take this. I also work for F&B IT department, which we didn't know until tonight. That one.
There we go. Okay, so this is if you, the one thing that's, I hope, obvious that I didn't mention is ideally you created an account to use this thing. So you log in. This is sort of like what your home page looks like. There's an upload button or add observations that I mentioned, some news and stuff. So yeah, so this would be your own profile. So you can follow other people. So there's Tam, there's Ruben. You can favorite certain things. But, you know, that's for yourself. And then this is all your own observations. So I haven't done that many. I've done 63. So now you can see all the different tags. So if you'll notice these, I don't know what that symbol is, but that essentially means an ID. So this one's got 2 people IDing it. That's got 2 IDs and a comment. This one is now research grade, so it met the requirements. And then what else is interesting? Oh, and if something is new, you'll also sometimes see there will be like a pink symbol to say there's like, since the last time you were here, new things were added to this observation. And then also here is a notifications one. So that's to some other thing that I interacted with a while ago that someone else has now added also an ID. So the first thing Tam wanted to show us was the projects.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go to the main page, and there you'll see is the projects tab. So you go there. Yeah, so I'm only part of one project, which was we did for that Pegler account.
Yeah.
And then here is all projects, go there. And then, so this is stuff all around the world. But, yeah.
And that's why we're doing this tonight. The Great Southern Violet 2024. So this is the whole of, and that's happening this weekend. So now that you upload, you're going to go to Flint and upload many observations for the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, but the Southern Bioblitz is just going to be for, so it's this weekend. So if you put old observations up, it's not going to count towards the Southern Bioblitz. But we want to beat Cape Town, and you can, and have more observations than Cape Town.
Cool, yeah. So is this a project that you can join?
I think that's the international one.
Yes.
But there is one that is specific to Joburg. So I'll actually we can either look for it now, or I can find out the details and share them with Tam to share.
Okay, so, and then the other project Tam wanted everyone to join.
But it's the Mountain Club of,
yeah.
Is it going to come
I
up?
think it did
It might
find it
come
when
up.
we looked at it.
Does it come up? Oh, that's cool.
Where's my internet? Everyone's hammering the Wi-Fi. Okay, cool. So there's
So it's the middle one there, the
middle
one
one.
that says
Mountain
Mountain Club
Club,
of South Africa. So we created this project this week. There are 3 people that are part of it. I'm currently the leader. I don't expect to stay there. I'm hoping that there's very enthusiastic people who are going to push me off that leaderboard and who are just going to load loads of observations. So what you need to do once you've joined iNat is to actually join this project, because the way we created this project is we're not going to include any domestic species. So we're not going to include cats, dogs, cows, chickens, sheep. I didn't put pigs, but pigs are going to be in there too. But it's just so that we're getting the actual... so when you go to, I don't know, Groot Kloof and you're wandering past a cow, you can take a photo, but it's not going to be part of the project. So, but we also put a setting so that if you join the project, any observations that you upload to iNat will be part of that project. And the really exciting thing, the reason why we started the project is because we actually have a scientist down at Rhodes University. She works with biocontrol and invasive species, and she's actually going to be using the data that we input as a club for some of her research, because there's a huge dearth of data, particularly in the mountain areas, because they're hard to get to. No one goes there. So I was at a conference and she was saying, like, we don't have this data. And I was like, but actually the Mountain Club people are going to the mountains all the time. And I'm sure some of us would really like to be part of citizen science and to add our observations. So we, as Joburg section, have started it, but we're hoping to include all of the Mountain Club so that we can cover all of the mountains over the whole country. So what she'll do is, if she's interested in looking at, so even if you're not in Gauteng, if you go somewhere else, please log. And once you've joined the project, so you're going to need to, you need to join the project and go in and join us. And then all of your observations, even if they're not in the mountains, will be uploaded. And what she'll do is, if she's interested in the Magaliesberg, for instance, she will overlay like the coordinates that she's interested in, and then she'll just draw the observations for those mountains. So we're just asking you, wherever you travel across South Africa, we've made it so it's just South Africa. So if you go to Namibia, we're not going to be interested in your observations, but any records that you can upload for South African mountains will go towards the various projects that she's working on. So as I say, she's starting with the bush encroachment and alien invasive species, but she also works with, there's an Afro-Montane research unit that's part of University of the Free State, and she also works with them, so it'll also be added to the data that they can use. So maybe there'll be 4001 papers, and that some of our data and some of the observations we've uploaded will be included in that. And the other thing she wanted us to say is take as many photos as you want. The more photos you take, the better. If you see something here, you take a photo. If you see something 10 meters down the line and you really like it, take another photo. And then something else that I learned that I just wanted to add to your stuff is particularly for, is take photos, please take more than one photo for each observation. Things like daisies are just almost impossible to actually identify. So if you take a photo from the side and from the bottom and from the top, and take one close up and take one a bit further away so you can see where it is, maybe it's under a rock, maybe it's out in the sunshine, maybe it's in the shade, and just give identifiers as much information as they can have. Yes.
So a zoomed in one further back, one from the top, one from the bottom.
Do you want to join?
And the fifth one would be a landscape. So you need to then take your photo, your camera, and turn it sideways so that you can see what's in the background. Are you on a cliff, or are you in a grassland, or what kind of a slope are you on? So to try and get a landscape. So 5 photos per observation is a good.
And cliffs, they're needing information about species on cliffs. So if you're halfway up the cliff and you see something interesting and you haven't dropped your phone, take a photo.
With the landscape photo, if you can also join the VegMap project, then that landscape photo will be contributing to that VegMap project as well, because they like to see the vegetation of that area. So you'll be, if you join multiple projects, your one observation can contribute to all of those projects. So things like the Red List, VegMap, obviously this project now, and any other interesting projects that the alien invasives, any other interesting project, I think that's very important to join.
I have a list. I'm thinking I'm about like 10 different projects. And it's great because your data is going out there and people are using it, and you're making a contribution.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I think in case it wasn't obvious, so you don't have to join a project for your data to be useful, but the projects are for people who have a specific focus area, and you joining the project helps them find stuff relevant to their project. And then I think I just want to show 1 or 2 more of my observations just as examples of how people narrow things down. Come on. Or not. I hope this is because everyone's downloading the app.
This is pretty good.
Right, it's not seeming to load. Let me get the app download thing up again. Yeah, and then I think we can conclude it there.
So I think everybody wants to come and see whether the app works on those. Now, there's a bucket of aliens there. That's it from our cookies.
Yeah, so please download the app and try it out. You can try it out now, you can try it outside, you can try it this weekend. And thank you again, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate it.
I need to give him a thank you. You hang on.
Your battery's low.
At the moment, Jock's number 1 in MCSA, and I'm number 2. We hope. But the minute Ruben arrives, we know we're like going to be kicked off those positions. So, where's my handbag? My handbag. Oh. Very much for that. Super.